Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. This is a book coming out April 9th, 2024 from ECW Press. It is a historical fiction slash horror novel. I received this arc from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. This slow burn, atmospheric, historical fiction horror is as deep as it is compelling. Ooh. What is it about? The year is 1901, and Ada Bird, spinster, schoolmarm, amateur naturalist, accepts a teaching post in isolated Lowry Bridge, grateful for the chance to reestablish herself where no one knows her secrets. She develops friendships with her neighbors, explores the woods with her students, and begins to see a future in this tiny farming community. Her past, riddled with grief and shame, has never seemed so far away. But then, Ada begins to witness strange and grisly things. A swarm of dying crickets, a self-mutilating rabbit, a malformed fawn. She soon believes that something old and beastly, which she calls Grey Dog, is behind these visual offerings, which both beckon and repel her. As her confusion deepens, her grip on what is real, what is delusion, what is traumatic memory loosens, and Ada takes on the wildness of the woods, behaving erratically and pushing her newfound friends away. In the end, she is left with one question: what is the real horror? Reading this obviously reminded me of The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello, a novella I read back in February and was my favorite book of the month. In that we have a queer character traveling to a small town in the olden days, in this case 1901, not the 1930s, but the stigmas, shaming, and strict gender roles are of course pretty much the same. I absolutely love the fin de sec and the time period traveling into the 1920s, so I was very, very happy to receive an arc of this. On top of the richly detailed setting, the story also has horror aspects that take a while to build and an exceptional historical atmosphere. What helps the latter is the epistolary aspect of the novel. It's told in a diary style, and the balance between providing enough info that you're not missing anything, but then it not feeling too didactic so that it doesn't feel like a diary anymore was excellent. The narrative voice also fit the character quite well. Ada overuses exclamation points, meanders a bit, and convinces herself of things, but it felt intentional. When the book needed to, it pared that stuff back, but when it was helping build Ada's personality and her unreliable narratorness, it suited the structure. I will say one thing about the book: it is very, very slow burn. If you enjoy books like this, which I do, you will enjoy the lead up to the ending quite a bit. And while it is slow burn, it's never dull or dragging. The story is consistently moving forward. It's just like there isn't a lot of horror for quite some time, and there's a lot of, well, walking around and conversations where people never say what they mean. Then again, if there were more abject hostility to Ada or more scary shit, it wouldn't have made sense for Ada not to just take off. As with all horror stories, it seems, Ada is not only dealing with the potentially supernatural, but trauma of her past. Her sister is recently deceased, and she was forced to leave her previous teaching post due to reasons. What I really liked was how this reason seemed very obvious from the start, but then it's twisted in a way that I did not expect. Or at least there's a twist on the twist that I did expect. It was like, I was like, oh, okay. Not what I expected, in a good way. Well, not really good. Anyway. Ada herself is a likable character. She's a pretty average woman. She's smart, she's brave but not brazen, and she's quite lonely. Not like average women are lonely, but I guess average spinster ladies at the time were probably a bit lonely. I mean, some might be relieved, but others anyway. While she clearly wouldn't be opposed to a partner, she really just wants a friend. Her loneliness has her reach out to anyone who will accept her, even if that person is disagreeable to the couple who allow her to board their house. What's interesting about this couple and the rest of the town is that everyone harbors secrets. Some secrets are weird, some are sad, some are benign. The town, the people felt real, and I was entranced by the novel the entire time. What was realistic and disheartening at times, and I think it was supposed to be intentional, was the way Ada was complicit in the same systems that are holding her back. In order to keep her job, the only thing keeping her from having to return to her abusive father is to ensure the children, especially the girls, in her classroom behave according to expectations, something she is also constantly badgered about by her father. At one point, she accuses a girl of immoral behavior for kissing a boy, for example, and the boy doesn't even get a talking to. This and she felt realistic to the time period because, unlike Leslie in The Woods All Black, Ada hasn't been introduced to any alternative forms of thought. While she understands the societal expectations that bind her, she doesn't even realize that she can, in fact, combat them. This is part of her journey, though. In this way, the novel shows how sometimes we just go along with stuff, even if it is self defeating, because to make a stand would feel futile and be often worse than the alternative. If you are fond of horror novels that explain everything away, you will not get that here. In truth, I'm not even convinced what I read was real, and I think there are multiple interpretations of the ending. Ada is a very unreliable narrator, which is part of the fun of the novel. How much is the gray dog, and how much is the horror, her fraying mind? To further complicate this, there is a passing reference to the Plato's cave allegory, which reinforces both the gray dog as a being who Ada's eyes have been open to, a hidden reality from most people, and as something else entirely. The reference is not just, the shadows we see and perceive are not what they actually are idea, to put the allegory in its most simplest terms. I don't have all day here to go through the whole thing. You can go on Wikipedia or actually read it if you want to. But also because one of Plato's higher ideals or higher levels, of reality in terms of the philosophy here, which is the point of the allegory, is natural science, something that Ada is very much into and comes up again and again in the novel. The more I think about this, the more I think the cave wasn't just a passing comment in the book to show Ada is well read, but it's supposed to direct our opinions about the ending. You could read it as Ada being brought to a higher level of being, of understanding, obviously not in the exact way Plato meant, but I'm kind of roll with it here. You could also read the ending as entirely face value and totally enjoy it, which is how I read it at first until I started to actually think about this. You could also read it as a statement on women's repression generally, or the repressed queerness of Ada in the story, kind of like the movie The Witch, like that whole movie was supposedly kind of something to a statement about that. It could be all of the above. It could be none. You could have your own interpretation. Either way, I found the ending satisfactory to the extreme because it made me think, and I really, really like that. In terms of creepiness, though, I would give the book a 6 out of 10. But this is more an atmospheric novel than a horror. In truth, I very much am into this subgenre of horror. I like being scared, sure, but I also love just being brought so strongly into a setting. If you couldn't tell, I very much enjoyed this book. I'm going to have a very hard time choosing between it and I Cheer for the Refused this month. 2 small presses for the win, which is great. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to pick between those two. I thank you very much to the publishers and to NetGalley for this e-arc. I loved it. And if you like, atmospheric, I'm going to say that word again, atmospheric horror, you should totally check this book out because it is really, really fun. So thanks.